Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley with Uncommon Roots Homestead, and it is, believe it or not, time for another July garden tour. So it is late July 2021. We are in Zone 7A, East Tennessee, and we are wrapping up here on our homestead the craziest month of the year. Not only is everything happening in the garden and on the farm, but we have just been go, go, go the entire month of July. We had Kevin's brothers and their families in town, 16 people at our house at the beginning of the month, and that jumped straight into a family reunion on my side, which is another huge group of people in town. And then we traveled to Florida to see some of our sweet friends. And then we came back, and 2 days later, some of our other friends flew in from Arizona. I just dropped them off at the airport. We've got about a week here before we head up to New York, and we are feeling it. I mean, you guys have said in the past that we seem busy, and we are. We carry very full plates, but we do it joyfully because we feel like this is what we've been called to do. I work in corporate America, for those of you who are new with us, as an executive in marketing at a tech company, and I absolutely love my job. I love what I get to do on a day in, day out basis. I love being a part of corporate America. And when we first started this journey into sustainability and into homesteading, we knew that we were a little bit non-traditional in terms of, what most families who homestead look like. We don't really look the same. And I think that's true for a lot of people in the homesteading community, right? Like, I think there's a common vision of what homesteaders look like, but then in reality, there are a lot of us that have a lot of different lifestyles. And so we have felt called to share our journey and share how we're balancing it all, and how, sustainability and homesteading and kind of getting back to the basics is something that's attainable for everyone. And with that, sometimes we learn on the go. And this year, what we've learned is that July and August are going to be a no-go month for us. Every single thing that we did this month, they were all things we wanted to do, and they were all things that we were really excited about and that we had a blast doing. But July is the peak harvest season, and so the garden requires the most care and attention during that season. And honestly, we haven't been able to give it the amount of attention that it deserves. And I have been out here harvesting every chance I get, and we've been processing as we go, and we've been putting a lot of food away and eating really good food at home. And so it hasn't been all a loss. And, all of the people who have come in town to visit, they've been helping with all of this too. But while we don't live on this property, that becomes increasingly difficult, right? When people come to visit that have lots of small children, it's difficult to load all those kids up and come over here for a day. And so we've just realized that we need to set better boundaries and protect our time as we transition into this lifestyle. And that's hard, right? Because we often, I think, as humans, just want the best of every world. And so we're starting to see the sacrifice that comes with this lifestyle beyond just the balance, right? And so we're a little tired. We're a little tired rounding out the end of this month. We have one more trip to go, and we've got, a bit of time here in between those trips. And our goal is just get to the farm every day, take care of the garden, take care of the animals, make sure we're getting the things done that we needed to get done over these next couple of months. And then we're taking this learning and we're going to apply it next year, right? We're going to block off those dates between July and August. And, if people want to come in to visit, that's totally awesome. But they'll have to understand on the front end that this is our busy season and that we have a lot that we need to get done on the farm. And it'll be easier next year. We'll live here. So having people come visit will be a lot easier. They can help with things. We won't have to, truck people back and forth. But we're definitely learning this year. All of that being said, it's time to go through the garden. And I feel like that's a little bit of like my excuse on the front end of this video. You're going to see a lot of things today that are not the way I wish they were, and not the way that I want them to be. And, I think that there is value in what I've always been saying, which is have grace with yourself and do everything that you can do. And just because you can't do something the way you maybe want to do it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it at all. And there's so much value in that. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And that's, what I honestly live my life by. But there is also value in having a standard of excellence and wanting to pursue that standard of excellence and wanting, you know, to have the things that are beautiful be beautiful and to take care of them and to have all of the things that are under our dominion have the best life, whether it's plant or animal. And, you know, right now, all of our animals have the best life. They've definitely not fallen to the wayside. We are over here twice a day, making sure they're taken care of. But on the garden end of that, these plants are not all living their best life. So I'm going to take you through the garden today, and I just want to be really transparent with showing you all what the garden looks like in a season of transition when we are not living here and we didn't balance our time correctly. And so we are in the heat of the season and there's a lot to be done. Thank you for having grace with me, and thank you for enjoying this space with me even when it's not quite what I want it to be. So let's go do it. You all know it wouldn't be the beginning of the garden tour if we didn't look at the naked arch, but I want to show you what we did. This little guy is a passion vine. He got stepped on, so hopefully that's not indicative to how he's going to turn out. The rest of him looks pretty good. I'm going to give him some water before I leave. But that is a passion vine similar to the vine over there. This one came from my parents' house, and he should climb. I mean, look at that one. That one started super tiny just a few months ago. So he should have time this season to climb over this trellis and create something beautiful. I'm not giving up on my climbing roses. I am just gonna let the passion vine climb up in the interim. And if those roses do decide to climb and take off, then that's wonderful. That'll be perfect. I'll still let them climb. But I mostly just didn't want a naked trellis all year. I gotta get my basket because actually I'm gonna get all of them. How many baskets can I hold? There is a lot to harvest today. I spy something my child has done. So this row of tomatoes, they're all looking really good. I am still struggling with some blossom end rot. This one's not that bad. Ooh. Do you guys hear that beetle? Okay, we've still been dealing with those massive beetles, and they haven't been bothering me that much, but they've been hiding in the plants. And so sometimes I'll touch something like a tomato or a leaf, and all of a sudden they all just like fly out, and that gives me a heart attack every single time. You guys know I'm not like huge on bugs. I don't know anybody who is. I mean, I guess some people are, but you know, not really my cup of tea. So apologies in advance if I like throw you or, you know, freak out a little bit. But what I was saying is that this one's pretty bad. It's got a little bit of the blossom end rot here. So because it's pretty rotten in there, I can feel it. I'm gonna just toss this one to the pigs. All that to say, most of these tomatoes are doing pretty well. I'm dealing with the occasional blossom end rot, but I'm getting a lot that don't have that too. I think one of the things that you guys said is that it's probably due less to the calcium in the soil and more because of the inconsistent water that we've had because it's rained so much. And I think you're probably right. I do want to still test this soil because I want to know as we move into the next season how we should be amending these beds. Look at that. Ugh. But I think that you're right, and it probably has a little bit more to do with the way that we're watering, because we don't water actually that much, especially at the beginning of the season. We didn't even have running water here, so we were really largely dependent on the way that God watered the garden. That we are getting a ton of tomatoes, and you know, this is a transition year for us. We knew that. Look at this pink boar. How beautiful is that? Isn't that gorgeous? Pink boar tomatoes are one of my favorites. They have a really sweet taste. They are meaty. They're not too like seedy. I really love them. This is a solar flare. It's got a bit of blossom end wrap, but it's really not that soft. So I think I'll try to just cut that off. How pretty is that? Some of these Brad's Atomic Grapes are ready. You can tell when these are ready because they have a little bit more give to them and they kind of fall right off the vine. So the coloring changes too. They get a little bit more red. That one's ready. You can see those ones are not. This one might be. Yeah, no, he doesn't want to let go. Okay, I do have to say, these chocolate cherry tomatoes, they are a little bit larger than most of our cherry tomatoes. This one's actually pretty bad, but they're a little bit, I think, closer to like a grape tomato size, but they're called chocolate cherries from M.I. Gardner. They have been prolific. I mean, I have gotten at least a pint every single day that I've come out to pick. I mean, look at these. Aren't those beautiful? And they're very juicy. They're a little bit more tart. Ooh, do you see that? There's a big beetle in there. They're really good. I'll definitely grow these every year, if for no other reason that they're so prolific. I also have not been disappointed by these Berries Crazy Cherry. They are absolutely out of control. Like, a lot, like maybe over a quart per plant each time I come out to pick, which is exactly what I was looking for. It's what Jill told me would happen, and I am not disappointed at all. Very excited that these roses seem to be coming back. I had some, you guys told me that roses do not like the weed pressure at their base, so I need to come in here and weed these and get them mulched really good. I think that's something I'm actually gonna do in the fall when our schedule is open a little bit more. But there's a ton of new growth here, so I think they're gonna pull through. And this one is looking less wonderful, but he's definitely not dead, so I'll take it. Pretty much the one, elephant in the room that at this point, I'm not even talking about is, look at the weeds. Do you see? This is my asparagus bed. The asparagus all looks great, but there is so much Bermuda grass that it is out of control. We need a good weekend to just come and do a ton of weeding, especially in this bed. It just is really bad, which is interesting to me because we did lay cardboard and then mulch on down before we put the compost in. But the weeds just came in fierce, and we did not mulch on top of the garden this year, which we really should have. That's something I've done every year. This is the first year I've not done it. And I'm feeling regret because the weeds definitely are more vigorous when you do not mulch around your plants. So next year I'm going to go back to mulching. I could still mulch now, right? There's no reason I couldn't bring in straw or pine needles or wood chips and just mulch all this now. The reason I'm not going to is time. We already are at the point where we're at peak time commitment. So sometimes things have to give. If you don't have time, is a commodity. We only have a set amount of it. We have to figure out what to prioritize. So I am not prioritizing weeding the garden, mostly because I'm not seeing the weeds do a ton of damage. They're annoying and they're everywhere, but they're not choking out my plants. If I was seeing all this asparagus die, that would be different. I would come in and I would prioritize weeding because I want the asparagus to live, but they seem to be living together fairly decent. So I'm gonna just leave them. Also, do you like how these beds are just falling apart? Some things. Next year, we're actually, at the end of the season, we're going to be taking the, the wood from around the beds out. And then these are just going to be raised in-ground beds. So the asparagus isn't moving. We're not going to be moving anything, but we're going to take that's not doing anything. This is not helping anyone here. So it's pretty much laid out at this point, right here. So we're just gonna take it out. These are just gonna be in-ground beds. Peppers all look fantastic. Very excited about these. These are the corbachis. They look really good. I've got a ton of jalapenos, banana peppers galore. These are all banana peppers down that side. Ton of jalapenos down this side, more banana peppers. And then my poblanos over here are looking fantastic. Got a ton of fruit setting there. And then down the other side, I've got my Italian longs, which I'm really excited about. Those have been really good. And then all of my Sugar Rush Peach, which these plants are super prolific. Sugar Rush Peach are one of the hottest peppers that we grow. They are not peppers that I would eat right out of the garden. I like spicy food, but I don't like ridiculous amounts of spice, if that makes any sense. So Kevin makes a hot sauce with cayennes and Sugar Rush Peach, and it is phenomenal. I mean, he probably canned maybe like 12 half pints last year from one plant. And he could have made more. We just didn't think, who goes through that much hot sauce? We do. We ran out like halfway through the winter. So this year we are going to make a ton more of that hot sauce because we want to be able to give it away to a lot of our friends who wanted some that we just couldn't part with it last year because we didn't have enough. So we are prioritizing making Sugar Rush Peach hot sauce. And then we've got all of the other peppers. We've got jalapenos are pretty spicy. We grow serranos over at the house. We'll be doing those here next year. But other than that, we don't really grow too many super hot peppers. Now, I did just add Calabrian chilies to the garden because our favorite pizza place puts Calabrian chilies on our favorite pizza. So we decided we would grow them and check it out. And they are delicious. They're not too spicy until they're cured. They get spicier as they cure, which is interesting to me. The herb bed is wild as ever. My nasturtiums have just taken off. They're out of control. I don't know that I like nasturtiums. I think they're beautiful. We don't eat them that much, so I have a ton of them. I know that my friend Jill over at Whispering Willow Farm, she made a nasturtium pesto. So maybe I'll try harvesting a bunch and making that. We haven't found our favorite way to eat nasturtiums yet, but they grow so well and they're just a really beautiful element in the garden that we keep putting them in, even though we don't use them that much. My mint is looking wonderful. I'm pretty sure you can't kill mint. Lavender looks great. My holy basil is so fragrant. I mean, every time I walk by this plant, I have to do a double take. It is just, it tastes and smells absolutely phenomenal. I've been using fresh holy basil or Tulsi on all of my fresh basil dishes. So on top of pizzas and things like that. I actually am liking it more than sweet basil. So I still love my sweet basil. That's all of this is sweet Genovese basil. Love that. My cinnamon basil is looking great. Everything is looking fantastic. You might also notice that I'm letting all of these flower. I want these to go to seed because I'm hoping that they'll reseed and come back next year. So that's my end goal here, is to have the herb bed be almost perennial, even with the annuals, because they'll continue to reseed and come back. So that's my hope. Fingers crossed it works. If not, I'm just gonna plant the seeds again like I did this year, but it is worth trying. Over here, I'll show you my potatoes. They're all looking really good. It's much more sparse on this row. So we'll see. I got these in the ground really late, so some of them are still popping up, and I hilled them up recently, so kind of covered some of it, but these are just wild and crazy. Some of them have started flowering. You can see here. So what's interesting about potato flowers, they look a lot like tomatoes, and that's because potatoes and tomatoes are related. They're both in the nightshade family. So the blossoms on a potato often remind me of a tomato blossom. Not once they open. Once they open, they're usually this beautiful purple color, which obviously tomatoes are yellow, but the blossoms before they open remind me so much of tomatoes. In fact, sometimes I'll look at them and I'm like, wait a second, is that a tomato or a potato? But obviously the foliage is different, but it's just interesting to me. Look at these giant bell peppers. I gotta go get my scissors. I'm gonna try to come back and do that. If I continue to just harvest as I go, the garden tour takes me 3 hours to complete and my camera will die. So I'm going to try to just look and then come back through and do all of the touching later. These dahlias are absolutely stunning. So this will open up even bigger. They end up being this big. They're just gorgeous. I'm loving those. And then these ones are stunning too. That one's opening up. Little butterfly friend. I don't know what these ones look like yet. This was in a mystery box that I ordered, so I'm interested to see what kind those are. And then these ones are peach, and they are beautiful. Also, as soon as our weather started warming up, these artichokes just like took off. They look absolutely stunning. So I'm really excited about that. They looked kind of sickly for a while, and I was afraid that we were just gonna lose them all and I wasn't gonna get artichokes, but they seem like they're doing really well. So fingers crossed that they produce fruit and that they live through the winter and that I have them again next year. So this bed here is a little bit of everything. I've got my Kajari melons that are looking really, really ravaged by vine borers. They're not looking good at all, but they're still climbing and there's still some fruit. So I'm trying just to leave them to see what happens. But then I've got some like lettuce that's bolting, and my flowers still look good. I've got carrots that need to be harvested. My bunching onions still look good down here. But mostly this space is going to be used for the fall garden. So I'm going to be posting a video here in a couple days about how I'm planning for the fall garden. And I know that sounds crazy because we're like still in the thick of summer, but it is time to start planning and starting seeds for your fall garden if you are in a zone similar to mine. If you're in a colder zone, you probably needed to do that almost a month ago. So just keep that in mind. But some things are slow. That doesn't mean if you haven't started, you can't do it. But you're going to be limited. Like you're not going to have time for Brussels sprouts or things like that. So I am going to be using this bed because there's a lot of real estate here that's not being used right now for the fall garden. So when we go through that video, I'll kind of talk about how I'm planning and what I'm planning to plant, and then how I transition from the summer to the fall. So stay tuned. That video is going to come out a little bit later next week, actually. Oh, and look at how funny is that? That's my pig basket from earlier. Just bringing pig baskets and leaving them everywhere. Of course, it just started raining every time. So I'm going to try to speed you through the rest of the garden so that we don't get caught like we did last time. This trellis has just recently taken off. Look at all of those tromboncino squash. Do you see them all? So I am actually letting a couple of these right now go to winter squash because I want to see, mostly it's like I just want to see what happens. I want to see what it's like when it's winter squash. So I've got one big one down here. Let me show you. Look at this Mac Daddy. I mean, he is huge. Maybe not quite as big as the one that's in my kitchen right now, but he's getting there. And he is, I mean, like, I don't know if we can tell. Like, I mean, he's giant. He's really big. And I just noticed there's another one in here, kind of like curled up. Can you see him? Let's see, where are you? There he is. There he is. See that? He's like curled in there. Huh. I don't know where his butt is. But he's a big one. This bed is just the regret of 2021. It is just an absolute wreck. This is the bed that had the herbicide damage early, and so I didn't trellis it up. That was my core mistake. I should have just trellised it when I was trellising everything else. And now like the squash has just come in and it is just a mess. I've been harvesting, you know, anything I like see from the top that it needs to be harvested, but other than that, there's just a lot happening there. That's probably, you know, is what it is at this point. I mean, look at this. In less anxiety-inducing news, look at my beans climbing the corn. That is exactly what they are supposed to do. I'm very excited about that. It looks wonderful. So this is basically a traditional Three Sisters garden. That's where you plant beans, corn, and squash together. The beans climb the corn, the squash covers the ground. It just creates this really symbiotic relationship. It's working well so far. I had an issue with the corn not germinating and the beans germinating, so I have a lot of beans growing over there, but I'm just kind of letting it happen. We'll see how it goes. I'm not like banking on it or anything this year, so we'll see. Do you guys see that bug? Look at him. They're huge. What kind of beetles are these? Absolutely disgusting. But anyways, I was coming over here to say that this Thursday, Kevin and I are coming out here. Kevin has to do some work over in the cow yard, and I am going to wear long sleeves and I am going to prune these production tomatoes. I'm not going to be really focusing on pruning the San Marzano because those are determinate varieties. I don't really want to prune them very heavily, but I am going to prune the big boys because those are indeterminate and they're out of control. And mostly, like, this is not conducive. Indeterminate or determinate, like, it doesn't even matter at this point. This is not conducive to getting good fruit. I can't navigate it. I can't see what there is in there. I can't see if the fruit is ripe. I've got a lot of fruit rotting. It's just not working for me. And like I said, there's a level of order that I need to be successful. And that portion of the garden is not giving me that level of order. So it is my responsibility and I am determined to get it back in line. So I will bring you guys with me on Thursday when I do that, because I think it's worth you seeing how I'm gonna tame that beast, because maybe you have a beast you need to tame too. Look at this. Look at that. This is a blue Hubbard squash. I'm so excited about those. There's a ton of them growing. I don't know if there's any more down there, but there is winter squash littered throughout here. So much. I'm really excited about all of the winter squash, and a couple of you gave me good tips on how to get this in line next year. You said plant the squash in a different location so that it can just grow wild and I don't have to mess with it at all. I don't have to dig through it. I don't have to like find, gosh, those bugs are so loud. But I won't have to like dig through and like find melons among the squash like I'm gonna have to do this year. And I'm gonna do that next year. I'm gonna move this bed, so like where all of the winter squash is there behind, those are my sunflowers, but behind the sunflowers back here, I've got 2 rows of sweet potatoes. Those will stay. They get big, but they don't get as crazy. And then the squash, I'm actually gonna move out here next year and let it kind of ramble down away and just call it a day. I'm starting to wonder what our sweet potato harvest is gonna look like here. And I think it's gonna be good. Can't really get in there, but it feels like it's gonna be good. This is my massive pumpkin. Look how big these leaves are. Like, do you see this? Like, that's a giant. I don't have anything. It's really struggling. Really, really struggling. So I actually talked to my grandma's home where we got these seeds from and asked them, like, it's like we're dealing with a lot of issues. How do you get it to grow a pumpkin? And they said every chemical you can imagine, which, you know, to me, not really an option here in my garden. So I'm just gonna let it go. I've got some vine borer damage. Like, there's a lot happening here. It's like splitting. Like, look at this, splitting. Do you see that? That's like the plant split open. And it hasn't set any fruit yet. So I'm just gonna let it go and hope that it sets some fruit. I mean, I'm seeing like those are blossoms. So hopefully we can get a pumpkin out of it. I don't know if it'll be the biggest pumpkin in the world, but I think it's a really cool legacy to grow one of her pumpkins. Also, while we're over here, something very exciting happening on my fig trees. So for depth perception, this is the big holly tree that you always see behind me. Here's the squash and melon patch. And then if we turn, right here is my row of figs. So let me show you all of these figs. So I have had this fig tree for 3.5 years, but it's always been in a container. I moved it here in ground, gosh, I guess at the very beginning of the spring. So this is its first year being in ground. It's all of these fig trees. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fig trees. It's all of their first year being in ground. So I didn't expect any fruit. And I've got like probably a dozen figs on that one plant and then a couple more on some of the others. So I'm really excited about that. I really need to climb in here and go check the summer squash, which just does not sound like something I really want to do. I mean, I'd have to go all the way through all of that, down what used to be a row here, to get down here. I bet there are zucchini so big in there. I bet they're out of control. I really should do it. I need to do it. It's just not like the most fun thing to do, like walking through all of this, because First of all, I don't want to kill any of these plants. Second of all, I can't see where my feet are going, which, like, for someone like me with my level of fear of the snake, friends, that is just not ideal. And now, oh my gosh, I see some really big ones. And now I also, like, my melons have just taken off here. Like, look at these, and I don't want to step on a baby melon. I try to step over by the sweet potatoes more. Put my foot in. My goodness. I made it. I'm in it. I'm in the thick of it. This is interesting. Look at this big boy. He has got to come in. Oh, shoot. I've just like murdered this little leaf. Sorry, guy. Oh, come with me, buddy. Oh my gosh. Oh, this giant bug. Oh, I need to get further, but I'm gonna try to back out of here and then come in at the other side to get the rest, because I feel like I'm getting to the point where I am going to murder some plants I don't want to murder. And I just don't want to do that. Gosh darn it. What in the world? Don't let your garden turn into this. So this is a yellow zucchini. It's pretty big. I mean, it could definitely be bigger. I've seen people grow bigger zucchinis, so I don't feel that bad about it, but it's not like the ideal size. Look at that passion vine. Oh, and look at these happy pollinators. We just gave them this second support, so our hope is that they'll climb up and over. I think the passion vines are absolutely gorgeous. I am 100% glad that we put them in. The fruit is edible. You pick it when it looks like it's rotting, like when it starts to like shrivel, and those are yellow, so they'll start to yellow. That's when you pick it. And the fruit is like a little bit, it doesn't have a huge flavor, so a lot of people don't feel like they deserve the real estate, but I think they're gorgeous, and you know that I've been struggling to find things that climb, so if it's gonna climb, it's gonna give me pretty flowers, and it's gonna produce fruit, it's in. Look at that tiger melon. This plant looks so bad, but still kicking, so just let it go. I'm trying to see if I can come in this way, because it's a little bit more, I don't know, contained? No, it's not contained. That's the wrong word. No one would use the word contained when they look at this space. Not even me. And with the beetles flying around, it's just also terrifying, so excuse me while I freak out a little bit for you. I might give up on these zucchinis, guys. Just feels like something that I should do. I should get in here. I should be able to get them. If you're a snake and you're in, I'm in it. I am here in the depth of this. And you know what? There is not a lot. I think that these plants are wrapping up their production, which is okay with me. I do need to check. I'm gonna check over there, but yeah, they're pretty much wrapped up. So I'm gonna get out of this jungle. Sorry, plants. Whew. Look at that. Like, I probably just did more damage there than it was worth, to be honest. So my summer squash are starting to wrap up production. It's getting hot. The vine borers are kicking in. The other, like the winter squash, is starting to climb so aggressively that it's like crowding out the summer squash. So what I'm gonna do, another way that I talked about cleaning up this space, is actually I'm gonna take those out. So if I have time, I'll do that Thursday with you guys with me. If I don't, I'll do it a little bit later, but I'll bring you with me then too. The goal is to just open up some space, get some visibility back into some of those paths so that I can find my melons. I really don't want to lose all my melons this year. And then we'll go from there. Well, friends, we are getting very close to rain. I am just seeing more and more of this blossom end rot as I walk back through. I gotta get some of these harvested. I gotta bring the duds down to the pigs, and hopefully not do all of that in the pouring rain, but we shall see. Thank you for joining me today in the garden. I appreciate you being on this journey with me as we learn to garden in this huge space together. You know, I've told you in the past, but this is my first year gardening in a garden this big. I quadrupled the size of my garden over the last year, and then add in all the other factors I talked about earlier. And it is just made for quite the adventure, and I would not want to share it with anyone else. So I appreciate so greatly you all taking the time to join us on this journey as we build our homestead here. And I want to invite you to join us over on Instagram at Uncommon Roots Homestead. I share things in real time there. Often I'll take you thrifting with me, walking through the garden. You'll be the first to see as every dahlia blooms. I'd love to see you there, and I thank you for being here with me. You always have a place in my garden. Until next time.